Yep, it's recording now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second session of live Q&A from Scrum Master Guild UK. Before we actually begin, let's look at a few housekeeping instructions. Please stay on mute for better experience for all the attendees. Session will be recorded, so you can rename yourself if you'd like to and hide your picture. Recording will be made available on social media applications like YouTube. So, and we are using Slido questions for getting your any new questions if you have, or for upvoting for the existing questions that have been already asked. And before you go, please leave us feedback so that the form will be shared at the end. Right. So warm welcome once again to everyone. So our pilot session went really well, and our panelists have answered a few questions around new Scrum Master starting their journey. So now we have collected a few questions in advance on Slido from our group members. So we'll try to answer as many as we can during the session. There will be an open mic session as well in the end. And if you have any burning questions, you can please raise. Yeah, so agenda for today's session is we'll do a quick round of introductions with our panelists, and then we'll jump right into Q&A and answer the questions that we already got, and we'll have an open mic discussion, and finally closure and feedback. So let me stop sharing. Right. Okay, so just to give you a quick introduction about myself, I'm Rashmi, founder of Scrum Master Guild UK. So I started this group 2 years ago when I got my Scrum Master certification in order to build a community of Scrum Masters to help me in my learning journey. So Girish has been a great support since the beginning and building this community. We have now grown massively, and there are about 600 plus members in the group now. And we have many experienced Scrum Masters and Agilists in the group, and they have always been very helpful with any queries, and even they're having one-to-one with the members to help them. So let me start with the introduction of our panelists. So Girish, he's our admin as well. Girish, would you like us to tell about yourself briefly?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am a core IT person, but I love Agile. I've been in this industry for last 24 years as a software developer, a delivery manager, and now in the last 8 years, more or less, in the Agile world. Currently, I'm a safe program consultant, as well as a release train engineer in a large telecom. I'm looking forward to this session. Thanks, Rashmi.
Thanks, Girish. So next we have Wilson. Wilson is also a founder of Newbury Agile Group, and he has a blog called Being Agile, and he's published many articles as well on medium.com. So sorry, Wilson, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So just like Girish, I also have a background in IT in different capacities, since developer to technical product owner. And currently I'm a Scrum Master as well in a large telco here in the UK.
Thanks, Wilson. We have Nitendra joining us today. Nitendra is also a Scrum Master and an Agile coach. He's from in India, and thanks, Nitendra, for joining at this hour. Would you like to tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, so thanks, Asmi, for so beautiful insight about me. So I'm also coming back from the IT consulting background with around 15 years of work. And primarily, I'm working with one of the pioneer service industry across the globe. I'm playing a role of a Scrum Master for one of the merchandising organization, which is also one of the pioneer across. And my aim to be in this role to just help team, their product, and the business to be more agile, enable them to be agile rather than doing agile. So this journey, I'm following it from quite some time, and happy to be part in this group, and hopefully that I'll be able to set expectations and able to provide my experience to the questions which we are getting. Thanks, Ashmi. Over to you.
Thanks, Nitendra. So without further ado, let's jump on to the questions that we've received here. Okay, the first question we have is, as a Scrum Master, how would I support the product owner? So Wilson, would you like to take this question, please?
Yeah, sure. So there are several ways that a Scrum Master can support the product owner, depending as well, and be aware of where the product owner is. Is this a person that has experience in the product management? Do they understand Scrum? If they don't understand Scrum yet, then probably I'd start as a Scrum Master, coaching the product owner in the Scrum framework, because there are many occasions when someone has been put in the role, but they don't really know what does it mean, and and what does it entail. And there are many things where the Scrum Master can help with, such as how to forecast empirically, how to manage a product backlog, coaching on estimations, relative estimations. If the product owner is already someone that is really strong in the product area, then the Scrum Master can always help to kind of bridge and create a good relationship between the product owner and the development team. So the Scrum Master should never be the proxy or the person who communicates things from the product owner to the development team, but rather to create an environment where everyone can speak to each other and there are open conversations, open and honest conversations. This is what I'd say how a Scrum Master can help the product owner.
Thank you, Wilson. Girish, Nitendra, do you have anything else you want to add? How Scrum Master can support the product owner, apart from what Wilson has covered already?
So, okay. So I'll take, I'll just add a small here reason, because already Wilson has explained it quite beautifully that, okay, how he can support. So one most important thing is prioritizing your backlog and refining your backlog to the better business view for all the team members working in this Scrum. So being a Scrum Master, we can definitely help product owner to prioritize, to help them to understand the business goal and prioritize the backlog so that we can meet the goal, shorten the business goal as per priority and the values that they can create. Capacity, definitely Wilson has already covered the capacity, and also the risk which team is facing. The Scrum Master could be a good barrier, or you can say the one of the channel member for the product owner and team who can help explain the risk and find solution or help product owner to get the mitigation plan. So these area, the Scrum Master can help product owner.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Wilson and Nitendra have explained quite well. And I think sometimes I also see myself, I mean, when I have played the role of a Scrum Master, I've often used my other skill sets also on the job, which is like considering I'm a technical question, more technically adept, as well as knowledgeable, as well as I have had a business of my own, so I understand the other side of the fence also, which is business. So I think even Scrum Masters bring something more than just coaching to the table. So sometimes I feel they also need to dig deep into their own personal experiences, and I think each one of us brings that, and we should kind of use that to kind of emphasize, or rather over and above. I think that's where we set example both to product owners and to the teams, that we have to continuously improve ourselves, and the only way you do it is by kind of showing that you are improving. And I kind of do that myself by learning new things, sharing it with the team, sometimes asking team questions which they might have not thought of, which I know I have experienced. And I think that's where the Scrum Master helps both the product owner and the team to evolve.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that, Girish. the next question we've got is, as a test engineer, can I change my role to Scrum Master with CSM certification? I would like to combine this with another question that we had received in our first session, which we haven't tackled. So that is Scrum Master a good career path for someone who has been a QA or test analyst for 10 years? So Girish, would you like to take this question?
I think Scrum Master is a role, I wouldn't say, I think it's personally, what would you like to do? I mean, I see that as a role where you enjoy the success of other people rather than your own success. And whether you're a tester, product owner, developer, BA, whatever background you come from, if you have the mindset where you want to grow and make other people grow with you, I think then a Scrum Master is an excellent opportunity for you, because there is nothing like nothing more satisfying than people who work with you grow and be proud, and the respect they have for you. And I think for me, that has been my biggest motivation to kind of stay in this kind of role.
Yeah, I agree. So I come from that background. So I myself am a test manager, and I have played a dual role for a couple of years now, being a test manager and the Scrum Master. So there is nothing that is stopping you from being a Scrum Master. You come from any background, and being a test analyst or test engineer, I think it will be quite helpful for the team as well, where you bring in your testing expertise and make sure, the value we deliver is very high quality. So yeah, there's nothing stopping you from being a Scrum Master if you come from testing background. Wilson, Nitendra, any inputs you have for this? Or we can move on to the next question.
Okay. So I believe that you both have Girish and you have both a cover. So you have rightly mentioned that, okay, there is no limitation that which background you comes from, that you should have a good influencing skills. You know that, okay, how you can listen people, how can empathize. So these are the quality that you'll have to build yourself. If you are coming with the inherited features, then it is completely well received for the Scrum Master role. But yes, you have widely captured that no, there is no specific skill set is needed to be a Scrum Master. Anybody can be, but there are certain parameters that we guys have explained that needed for this. So I'm good with your explanations.
Okay. Right. Next question we have is around capacity planning. So how do you do capacity planning? People in my team take sick leaves and tasks are not completed. So how to convince the product owner and the stakeholder? Nitendra, would you like to take up this question?
Yeah, so see, there are the several methods to do your capacity planning. So normally what I have experienced that normally I have recommended that team members to use my team calendar to update all your leave plans, to just counter if anybody is taking leave which is planned. Definitely there are some sick leave and uncertain situation where the people can take leaves. That is something that we do not have a control and we should not have even. But while you do your user story estimation and while you create your sprint backlog, you need to ensure that you are keeping some kind of buffer that is your sprint ready hours. So I'm not sure about how you calculate about the sprint ready hours, but when we estimate the user story and while we create your available hours depending on that which how many time cycle of your sprints goes it 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you calculate available hours excluding your all the breaks and ad hoc meetings. So taking one example, that if you work 8 hours in a day, I consider 8 hours you will have at least 20% time which go on your meetings and one of your breaks, and if you want to do some of your personal things. So only 80% we consider as a productive hours. Those 80% is calculated number of days we works in the sprint, removing your absence and any of the uncertain situation where you want to take leave. So there, some of those total number comes as a capacity by adding all the team members work in your sprint. Now, when the situation is that team members takes unplanned, or if they are not updating this, so it should not be, because if you work in Agile, that definitely everybody is aware that okay, who is doing what, they can contribute some support. But if your team is following this practice that they are frequently taking the leaves and they are not updating informations to Scrum Master, then it is a challenge. And while communicating to Scrum product owner that okay, what is and why team is not available and how it is going to impact, you need to first discuss the team before you go to the product owner, because product owner, end of the day, they will first ask the Scrum Master that okay, what is the plan, what will be the consequences if the team is not there, is there any mitigation plan, or if team a backup plan. If not, then whenever we are going to create our next sprint, our this strategy will change, and we will see that okay, what best fit for the capacity planning. That normally I do.
So do you have anything in, because I have used TFS in the past, and I know how to do the capacity planning in that.
Okay.
How do you go about doing that in Jira?
Yeah, so we have in the TFS and the Jira both options there, where you can create a team calendar, and team calendar has the reflection of the numbers of hours everyone has in their bucket or sprint, removing the, and you also have the option to add the leave calendar from the different geography. So if there is any public holiday, if there is a personal leave, if there is unplanned leave, you can update there. Also, there is a team has a flexibility to add their hours per day also. So there are different way of managing your capacity. Yes, Jira also has the same feature. TFS also has the same feature. You can utilize any of them.
Okay. Thank you, Nitendra.
I'll let
Girish?
Wilson go first. No, I'll let Wilson go first. I think both of us feel very strongly on this subject, but I'll let Wilson speak first.
Okay, let's hear
Yeah.
from Wilson first.
Yeah. Well, I think the question was people are taking sick leaves, right? So
Yeah,
usually
that's the
sick
second
leaves is
part.
something that is not planned, so you cannot plan in advance unless you want to use the excuse to take the leave. But when I look at this question, okay, take 6 leaves and tasks are not completed. How to convince the product owner stakeholders? So I have no idea what does it mean to convince the product owner and stakeholders, but I will assume here that is how actually to justify or explain the any sort of shortfallings, right?
Yeah.
So if this is something consistent and all the time this is happening, then probably there is some other problem that needs to be seen. However, assuming that this only happens sometimes, I would assume that the backlog is ordered and even the sprint backlog is ordered. So the team would always start working from the most valuable or the highest priority product backlog items. So even if there is no capacity because sick leaves, then the team, at least whatever they have completed, they would have completed the most the highest priority items anyways. So that is one thing. And the other thing is about what does it mean convince the product owner? It looks like that the product owner is detached from the team. And even the last Scrum guide, they even scrapped the word developer team. It's only one team. It's
Developers.
Scrum. It's a Scrum team. So there is some dysfunctional behavior here that why is it the Scrum Master doing this? Will convince what the product owner should be part of the team and they should know any impact if it's having on the delivery of it.
And what if there are any dependencies between each other's work within the team? Maybe
Dependencies as such.
as such, like, probably one developer cannot complete his task because it's dependent on the other developer's work
Okay.
or something.
Okay.
What I understand from that question is, probably, some hidden question like this, like how, in such case, how would a Scrum Master convince the product owner?
Well, again, as I said, as a Scrum Master, I don't need to convince anything because the team is the one who has to manage these dependencies and need to organize. Because what we say at the end of the sprint planning, there must be the sprint plan, right? And what is a sprint plan is the backlog and the plan of how the team is going to accomplish this. And part of those discussions on how they are going to accomplish this is having those dependencies. Okay, look,
Yeah.
we need to complete this API so that this API will serve this feature over here. So we need to make sure that we tackle this first, then we tackle this. What can we do at the same time? Can we do the UI of this feature while the API is being built? So it's all about good communication within the team and they understanding what they are committing for and if it's possible to be delivered. Now, again, we are talking about sick leaves, which you cannot predict,
Mm.
but the only thing you can do is control or manage as much as you can in terms of the dependencies and what is actually the priorities of the backlog. So I always ask by product owner if okay we have this sprint backlog, even now that we have selected this amount of stories or product backlog items from the backlog, please to prioritize which ones are the most important inside the sprint backlog,
Yeah.
because we know that sometimes um, things can change. People can discover that something is more complex than other thing, or they may have some time that is being used somewhere else, or there are sick leaves. So we want to know what is the most important thing that we need to tackle first, and that's why there is a concept of the sprint goal as well.
Yeah.
If you have a sprint goal, then even if you don't complete all the items in your backlog, you may still achieve the sprint goal. If you don't have the sprint goal, then the objective is just completing the entire backlog and the success will be 0 or 100%, and that's not a really good place for a scrum team to be. That's my take on this. I don't know if Girish wanted to add something else.
I think what I wanted to add is why, from where this question is coming from. Actually, you would see this question come from normally organizations which outsource their development. So you have a product owner which sits in an organization, but the development teams are with a vendor who are
Mm.
either as a fixed price contract or a managed capacity contract or something, some vague twisted one which kind of satisfies their procurement company. But in all honesty, I feel uh, at this point where you're paying a vendor, there's always that trust factor. If the trust is broken, this kind of questions come up, because if the team does not continuously deliver business value, product owners get frustrated. You feel that the vendor is taking you for a ride. And on the flip side, sometimes when the product owners continuously keep putting pressure, making the team burn the candle at both ends, it makes it a very unsustainable way of working. So the balance has to be found. And to be honest, I'm also looking for the right answer. I mean, there is it's something which will, I think, evolve between the vendor and the organization, customer and client. It has to be a win-win for both. But to be honest, with respect to sick leaves, that is something we cannot predict. And the guideline coaching giving here by the Scrum Master, both to product owners and the team, is they are working on estimates. And estimates are exactly that. It's an estimate. There's a factor of unknown in the estimates, and it is possible. So even if there is no sick leave, it is quite possible that the team may not finish what they're doing. What is important is transparency. Make your product owner and stakeholders aware of any impediments you find. Work with the team, make the Scrum Master facilitate uh, meetings so that those impediments can be removed or socialized, so that these kind of issues never happen. That's my kind of view on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nintendo.
In any scenario, oh yeah, go on, Ethan. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry. So Girish has rightly pointed about that, okay, how we connect and share the relationship. And like Wilson explained about that sprint goal, how it is a sprint goal. So although it is a very common scenario that the whosoever has raised this question, it is very common, not even from the contractor and or even from the existing organizations also, and that we face. So during one of the retrospective, we got this kind of scenario where product owner says that, okay, your team takes leaves and we do not have sufficient time to research or learn something within the sprint. So what my team has practiced, and I recently recall the situation where the team has practiced that they have started keeping 5% of entire sprint effort to do some research and R&D, where we are creating a user story in the sprint backlog, and we are ensuring that these time is dedicated to research, provide some automation, innovation practice or something, where the normally it is a project management methodology where we call about the contingency reserve that is not clearly applicable in Agile. But yes, somehow to meet this situation, that also helps. And we found a very good practice that team is doing the innovation. They are supporting in the automation practice. They are doing some research, helping team for the learning new things. That also we do during our sprint. So that also we can look in other side of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Nitendra. As Girish mentioned, he rightly got that point, in what model the teams are working in. It's either they all belong to the same organization or the vendor onshore offshore model where, PO is sitting in a different,
Location.
site location altogether, and he is not getting involved in the sprint planning. This is where such questions would arise, where the Scrum Master is on the vendor side, and he's unable to convince, or he has to convince the product owner, saying, oh, they are on sick leave or such thing. But anything everything has to be, product owner has to be part of the sprint planning, so he knows what's been agreed, and the whole team knows what's the sprint goal, and also they would have planned for any uncertainties as well. Right. Moving on to the next question we have is, should a Scrum Master have technical skills? So, Wilson.
Yeah, so this is the famous question, right, that everyone gets to. Look, I do feel that having technical skills can help, but the Scrum Master really needs to be aware of what is his or her place. Okay, they if I'm working with a team that is working with databases and Java, and I have knowledge of it because I've been a developer in past, it doesn't give me the right to go and say how to do things, right? But it will help me connect better with the team, have some empathy as well. So imagine if a Scrum Master that have no idea or any knowledge at all about the domain where they are working, let's say IT. They don't understand anything about what is testing environment, what is staging environment, and then they are trying to help the team. And the team is having issues. Oh, we are not able, we are not getting our environment ready, or are having issues we are with our environment. Can you help us with that? Reaching out to people. If the Scrum Master doesn't even have an idea what does that mean, how they are going to help the team. So do they need to have? No, they don't need to have. Does it help to have? Yes. Does it always help? No. So if I was going to work for a marketing team, say for example, and I have no idea about what is marketing, what is the language that people use, it would be really difficult for me to listen and understand what they are saying. So I would make all the efforts to try to understand as much as possible what is their domain, what are they talking about, and make my own homework. So I think Girish has said this on the previous point as well, that I would need to upskill myself as well. So it wouldn't be enough for me just to have my facilitation skills and coaching skills, but if I really want to help this team to succeed, then I would also need to make something my move and learn about that domain. This is my personal view. I know that there are a lot of people in the industry that they don't agree, and especially those that don't have any background on IT. Those that have, they agree that yes, they should have. I'm here in between. So I would put myself, if I need to go and work in another industry where I have no idea, that is nothing about with IT, where Scrum can be used, then how would I feel? So I would feel that yes, I would need to upskill myself, would need to learn about that domain. This is my view.
But
Thank you.
also, what I have observed is in the job market, any Scrum Master role, they do ask for the expertise in that field. So, the Scrum Master knows what's happening and how they can help the team. Girish, do you have anything to add?
I think nothing more to add other than what Wilson has already mentioned. And I mean, for me right now, I find myself in a role where I'm working with totally different sets of people. So I have two technical teams under me. I also have a team which is working on service readiness, ready for operations, which are totally non-technical. But what I'm helping them is to guide to make their work transparent, to communicate to the development team on how to get their product into production, what is required so that the operation team can operate it. So uh, for me, like I said, I'm very comfortable with the technical team because I know what they're talking and I can sometimes help them with their impediments. But with people who are not in, like, service readiness is not my forte, but I help them to uh, share their experience and learn from them. So the next call I come, I know I am done my little bit of homework and kind of facilitate the discussions to go in the right direction. Recently, we had a call regarding site reliability engineering, and we were discussing on how a vendor should do site reliability engineering following the Google model. And it just took a few minutes to go through the documentation which Google has, and I found there was a little bit of discrepancy. But I made sure that we initiated that conversation in the right direction rather than taking an incorrect concept of it and taking it forward with a vendor. I made sure that by doing a little bit of reading, a little bit of background research, so I think it helps, but it's not a must-have. And I think as a Scrum Master, we lead by example. So when we show that to our teams that we are constantly upskilling ourselves, they get motivated, they get uh, like inspired, and I think that's what we are here to do, like that spark in the team.
Yeah. So Scrum Master doesn't have to be completely technical where, he knows in and out of development, what happens, the code and stuff, but at least he needs to know what is the process about and, how it's done. And also the domain knowledge, I think, is very important.
Yeah,
It is. So as an example, I have never worked with microservices. When I was programming, it was more about the SOA architecture. So I took, and it was just a month ago that I did an online course about what is microservices. I want to learn about these different architectures. I want to learn more about automating the pipeline, not because I'm going to do the work, but because I want to understand and I want to learn as well. How does this
Yeah.
work so that I can also speak and understand what is the team doing as well. This is what I feel that is needed. Like otherwise, I you know it would be it would become more and more difficult to help the team as well and connect to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to next question. As a Scrum Master, which agile metric should I be using to report to senior leadership team regarding the progress? Girish, I'd like to throw this question at you.
yeah, there's only one metric: the business value delivered. That's it.
So how exactly do you present this to the team? Like, is there a format or what all would you show in terms of progress what they need to see?
Working software is the best kind of what is a metric for progress. So that's one way of doing it. Keep demoing your software and make sure it is continuously being deployed to production, even though it may not be live, but it's in a production environment where your end users can see it. And currently, as a release train engineer, what I do as part of PI planning, again, I'm slightly deviating here to use the safe format. Every team as part of the PI planning put their business objectives, which are committed business objectives and uncommitted business objectives, which are basically they're saying that we are not committing to this, but if we get time, we will deliver it. But at the end of the PI, when the solution is demoed and the solution is deployed to production, the team will tell us that whether that objective was met or not met. And we capture from business value during PI planning of a value of 1 to 10. And at the end, we say whether it has delivered that kind of business value, again, from 1 to 10. So that helps us as per the SAFE methodology to kind of get a predictability score at a PI for a agile release train. So I have kind of adopted that as using to report into senior management.
Okay. I think Wilson wants to add something.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are two things here. So first of all is if your senior leadership wants to see progress in terms of burn downs and things like that, I think this is not a company that is serious into creating value. Because what Girish said about business value, at the end of the day, when you look at for example, reports from companies, it's all about the top line and the bottom line and everything that affects it. And this is how we increase revenue, how we increase number of customers, how we decrease costs. And this is not the Scrum Master that should be doing. Come on. There is a product owner or product manager that his role or her role is to maximize the value done by the development team. So those are the person that should speak with the senior leadership and explain to them what they are doing in the product or what features, anything that is advancing the business goals. So we have the business goal, we have the product goals, we have the sprint goals. All of this connects to between the strategy and the tactics. So I had to do some reports and I didn't feel really well doing those. But I was working in an environment that actually there wasn't much understanding about what is value. So I was lucky then working in another initiative where was the product owner who was creating all sort of reports and none of them was anything about how many story points or how many features or what was the number of average story points per developers, because that's all waste. Senior leadership that is true senior leadership, they don't care about those things. They want to know about, okay, how we are going to change the business, how we're going to make more money, how we're going to decrease costs, how we're going to make our customers and stakeholders happy. And this is what I do feel. So Scrum Master doing reports for senior leadership, there is something really, really wrong in that arrangement. That's my view.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that does happen a lot in many organizations, where Scrum Master is asked to report rather than product owner speaking to the stakeholders himself. Tendra, I see you raise your hand.
So I got very excited when Girish said that, okay, business value delivered, because that is the one key aspects of the metrics. But yes, recently there is one more metrics that we call the net promoter. So net promoter is something that most of the organization is looking forward. So if everyone is aware about the net promoter, what is this? So it is not. So whatever the business value which you have delivered to your customer, are they going to recommend this to someone else? If the value which we have delivered is that sufficient and that they can sell it to the market and generate the revenue. that is the net promoter is also being very popular in the Agile metrics. If somebody is using it's perfect. If not, that it is in line with the business value, which Girish has explained. So that is also I wanted to add into this.
Oh, good, cool. Thanks, Nitendra. So I'm conscious of time. We've got 20 more minutes. Let's jump on quickly into the next question. So does a Kanban team need a Scrum Master or a product owner? So I think there's a bit of confusion here because Scrum Master is associated with, Scrum. So does a Kanban team need a Scrum Master or a product owner? Nitendra, would you like to take this up?
So yeah, so see, it is very good question, I can say. That see, either the Kanban or any of the Agile framework. If your team is mature enough to deal with the business, I don't think that a Scrum Master is a necessary job for them. You need to understand that how mature your Agile team is. The Scrum Master, only for the facilitation point of view in the Kanban, there is no need. But if your team is not mature and they are not able to understand the value and the phases, how they are working and where the implications went, then a Scrum Master is needed for any of the Agile framework. Either you can start from a Scrum, XP, Kanban, Safe, anywhere. It depends how mature your Agile team is. So existence and the necessity of a Scrum Master depends on the maturity of your Agile team. So that is a very quick answer for me.
The Scrum Master is nothing to do with just with Scrum framework. It's also, they can be there for other frameworks
Yes.
as well in Agile. So yeah.
So we call it in the different names, Agile Release Train Engineer. There are a lot of names are in the industry, Agile industry. But yes, the Scrum Master, earlier it was considered it is only from the Scrum, but now we have started getting that in the Kanban also have the Scrum Master, XP, we have the different frameworks. So LAS also I've recently heard that, okay, the Scrum Master is implementing the same practice in LASs. So it all depends that how mature your team is.
Perfect. So one last question we got is, as a Scrum Master, how do you manage stakeholders who constantly insist that priority is given to products of their own interest, regardless of business priority? Wilson, can I throw this at your direction?
Yeah, sure. Again, as a Scrum Master, I don't do this. As a Scrum Master, I help the product owner do this. One good strategy is not to talk with different stakeholders individually, because this is when that can happen. So a good product owner will have a forum where they discuss what is the product strategy, how he intentions to take those, hear as well from other stakeholders what are their needs, understand their needs, and do a collective prioritization, not individually, because when you do individually, then you'll always have this kind of dysfunction and lobbying that you do my thing. So yeah, it should be a transparent process. There are many ways of doing collective prioritization. But the thing here is that, yes, do a collaborative session with everyone. And at the end of the day, I think it's the product owner's decision, and their decision is reflected in the ordering of the product backlog.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there are organizations where, the teams are working on multiple projects at the same time, and they have been pulled out for different project work from different stakeholders. This is where I think Scrum Master's role comes into, importance. They need to coach the team as well as the other stakeholders as to, what their priority is and what they're working on. And these are all external impediments, right? Coming through. Sorry, Girish, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add, in addition to what Wilson shared, is you will see this often where maybe you have scaled Agile, where as part of SAFE, you have product owners reporting into a product management team. So if you're kind of having 4 or 5 teams working on the same product, then this kind of issues do come. And what I recommend there is, again, taking a page from SAFE, is prioritizing based on cost of delay, or what they call as weighted shorted job first. So there is a very nice article which I can share the link later on, which calculates, which makes it very simple and transparent to business on how the items are prioritized. So WSJIF, it's also often called weighted shorted job first, is a very effective way of straight away with the business and the technical teams sitting together to prioritize issues. And it's a useful tool which I have consistently used in the past 4 or 5 PIs with my team to make sure the priorities are understood and identified, and the team execute them in that order.
Yeah, brilliant. That's something new I learned today.
Yeah.
Yes, Nitendra.
Yeah, so I would just want to add one more pointers which Girish has told about the WSJF. So WSJF, it is a very strong tool if we are looking forward, because sometimes your product owner itself is not aware that what is my priority is. Reason because it is always recommended that yes, your WSJF, because in my organization we have created a tool, Agile Release Planner, that is also the principle of the WSJF, where we have helped product owner and business to realize which sprint is going to come first based on the business value, their priority, and the smallest item which they can pick up. So sometime it is not a Scrum Master job even, but sometimes product owner should also realize that if I'm not aware of how to prioritize your backlog, how to analyze the business value which he can deliver to their business. So this kind of tools which Girish has done, it's a really strongly recommended for it. So thanks, Girish. Reiterating on this, what you have said. Thanks.
Yeah, I pasted the link in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Girish. Okay, I think we've come to end of the Q&A session. From the audience, if any one of you have any questions, please raise your hands and we can unmute you. If you don't have any questions, then probably I can pick up a couple more questions from the from our first session that we haven't answered yet.
Yeah, let's do that. If anyone raises their hand, we can go back to that.
Okay. The question I have here is there a the definition of ready for features in SAFe? Girish,
I can take that, considering almost everything should have a definition of ready, whether it's a feature or a story, but it is determined by the team's maturity level, because not all the teams can make everything definition of ready to be strict. There's also a danger, the more refined you make the feature, you kind of start drifting towards a waterfall method. So where you're doing a big design up front to say that everything needs to be there. So it has to, that's where I think the Scrum Master or the release train engineer plays a little bit of role on keeping some options open. So you don't decide, you have some stories in the sprint to determine what option works best and finally converge on the best solution. So that is one of the guiding principles in SAFe, which is keep your multiple options open. So, and this is where I think a little bit of teams struggle when they are a new team to understand that some of the work they do might be thrown away because, yes, all we are trying to do is prove an hypothesis and fail fast. So that's what, guys, yeah, just excuse me. I just need to take the.
Thanks, Chris. This was my question, Rashmi. Shiva here. So
oh, hi, Shiva. Okay. Hi. Okay, this was your question that I asked now.
Yes.
Okay, great. I hope that answered your question. Is that all right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have
Grace. We have Grace who has raised her hand, so I'm going to ask her to unmute. Grace,
sorry guys, I would ask in a minute. There's a call coming in. I'll come back to you in a minute.
Okay. No problem. So should we pick up next question? How Okay. Okay, what if as a Scrum Master, I found Scrum is not the right framework for the team? Wilson.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I
Yeah.
didn't.
What if as a Scrum Master, I found that Scrum is not the right framework for the team?
Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good question. So if I find out that is because I have some observations and I have some assumptions, I would always go back to the team and ask them and present to them, look, we are having these issues and these issues and these issues. So what do you guys think about this? And we may decide that, okay, well, this is not the best thing for us. Maybe we need to evolve to something else, and that can be a Kanban, for example, where you don't need to plan and freeze the scope for 2 weeks or a month or 1 week, but basically because your priorities are changing very quickly, and this usually can happen in operations teams, for example, where you cannot hold and say
Okay.
to a P1 defect that, okay, come
The
back
next
in 2
question we
weeks.
have is, how do I coach a team to estimate their first user story when the team is new to Scrum? Nitendra, can I ask you this question?
Okay, so that's a good question.
I
That
guess you're on mute.
And we can hear you.
No, you're not, but
okay. Can I have me?
we can't hear you.
No, we can. Rashmi, we can hear him.
So if I'm audible,
Yeah, you are.
Oh dear,
okay.
I'm not able to hear anyone.
Yeah, I think Rashmi, you're.
If you have not been removed from the group, not by someone.
Maybe
Okay.
just speaker,
Meanwhile,
Rashmi.
so meanwhile, I'll answer this question.
No, they're
So
not.
see,
They're working fine. And I've,
okay. So Rashmi, if you can hear me, I think.
I think my Wilson take over for if it's
Yeah.
possible for you.
Yeah, I don't remember what was the question, Nitendra. You remember?
Okay, so the question was that if I need to ask my team member to estimate first user story, but they have no experience in Scrum or they have not estimated the user story before. Okay, so first of all, if there is any scenario that we are doing this kind of estimation for the first time, I will go and give the freedom to my team to estimate based on their experience, what they think and how they can complete this. There should not be any parameter. They need to first analyze the complexity, their priority, and the value they are going to deliver. And upon those scenario, what they feel that how much time they can take this to complete it. Reason, because if it is the first time, then definitely I will not put any kind of disclaimer that you should put the story point or you should put this number of hours, but I will go based on their practice and the experience. I will not put any kind of the tool or technique to do the first user story estimation.
Okay. I don't know if Rashmi, you're back. If not, I will put the next question.
No, I'll can I say something about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, sure. If you have, yeah.
Yeah, I think Wilson, I recollect one excellent example you had posted a long time back on social media. I think keeping the Starbucks cups in a row. Yeah. So remember, story estimation is exactly that. It is comparison. It's a relative size. How do you do relative? By comparing stories. So I mean, what I would recommend is, you know what you're taking into your sprint. Take a look at all the stories, find which is the fastest for the team to execute and do, and put that as one story point. Then it becomes purely a comparison between that story and the other stories. If the next one is similar, put it 1. If the next one is double, you put it 2. If the next one is triple, it's 3, and so on. So you use the Fibonacci series 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 8, 13. And moment it reaches 13, tell the team this needs to be split. and get them to use either the spider SPYDR methodology to split the story and then bring it down into smaller points. But don't expect that 13 will become 5 and 8. It could possibly become 8 and 8 also. But it helps the team to make it in smaller pieces. But sometimes breaking it down introduces dependencies or complexity. But this is one good way of helping the team to pick up estimation, and also make sure estimation is not a one-man game. It is the whole team consensus. And this is where the most difficult part comes in, because you want your teams to swarm on a story. You don't want a developer to create a story for developing the story, a tester for testing that story, and a PO for validating that. The team needs to deliver business value with a single story, and they need to agree on the ability to do all aspects of that story, and then come to a consensus of what is the smallest story. So, and to be honest, even I struggle with my teams to do that. But that's what I would see as a utopian scenario.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can go to Grace.
We have Grace now. Grace, you can unmute yourself.
I'm so
Yes.
sorry about the mix-up earlier on.
It's fine.
Good afternoon, everybody from all over. My question is related to what we had talked about in the past, where the stakeholder is insisting on their bit of, on prioritizing their own product over, regardless of the business value. I know, I cannot remember now. I had, I think Wilson or Girish, I'm not sure, had mentioned that the product owner should be coached to have like a single point with everyone. But where you have like a setting, say in government, where people are working in different departments, and it's not quite easy to bring them into this one forum to agree on what the priority is. How do you go about that? I don't know if I'm clear.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't mind. I don't mind taking that and then letting anyone else put their thoughts on as well. So, at the end of the day, the product owner should be the person who understands what is the strategy of the product and the strategy of the business, and how to align both of those strategies. And that person, to be able to do a good job, they need to be empowered to take decisions, and the entire organization should respect their decisions. Now, it's fine that obviously stakeholders have their needs, and it's important for the product owner and the teams to understand what are those needs, because sometimes they don't talk about it. It might be getting a sales target, and they think, that stakeholder thinks, that having this feature would allow me to sell this product to another customer, and therefore get my target. But is that aligned to the strategy of the product? It might be a short-term win, but at the long run, you might be hurting your product. So that's why it's important for the product owner as well. Be always mindful what is a strategy, but also listen and understand what are the needs, because sometimes you may be able to find a way for that person to still get their needs, fulfill their needs, without having that feature, because there may be some other way to achieve those things. Usually we don't talk about this, and stakeholders don't talk about their needs. They just say, I want this feature. But if we have these conversations and we understand their needs, we may be able to find ways to kind of make everyone happy. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something on this.
I think you summed it up quite well, Wilson.
Does that help, Grace?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. It's very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's already 5:01. I don't know if anyone has any last burning question. If
Okay.
not, I have the feedback form, which I'd love for you guys to fill it up. It won't take more than a minute. I've put the link in the on the chat. the chat. So please fill that up so that we can learn as well what was good for you and any improvements that we need to do, and even about things that you'd like to hear next, or any other suggestion on how we should be doing this. The recording will be placed in YouTube. Rashmi will later on announce in the main on the chat on the Telegram chat. Thank you very much from my side. It was really good.
Thanks, everyone. It was a really wonderful session to learn each other's. So yeah, thanks again. So from my side, good night. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Same to you, Gireesh. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Rashmi. I don't know if you can still hear us, but